Welcome everyone to Single and Strong, a podcast produced by Asian Single Parents Network, who provide support and advocacy for South Asian single parents across the UK. My name is Somia Bibi and I'll be your host today. We have an important and emotive conversation ahead of us as we explore the issue of domestic abuse, its impact, and the challenges for those on the front line trying to provide vital support while dealing with many challenges themselves. Now, domestic abuse remains a very sensitive topic, often submerged in the shadows, despite how much we're seeing now on TV and within the media. Within communities of families, it creates discomfort and unease, but it's something we must discuss if change is to occur. We have three brilliant guests today who work tirelessly on the front lines to provide vital support and advocate for change for the better. We have Jacqui Mukono, the founder of Project Salama, and Sumanjit Kakkad, who is a frontline worker providing culturally nuanced support to survivors and victims. We then also have Priya Dawkins, the founder of the Jessica Project, who's a qualified independent domestic violence advocate and specializes in supporting survivors of sexual and domestic violence. Also, both organizations show the magic of the third sector and voluntary sector by working together in collaboration to do all they can to support victims of abuse and survivors. Today, we'll be unpacking a lot of issues around domestic abuse and its realities and what challenges can be faced providing support to those in need. We'll be looking at how cultural norms, expectations, and pressures can conceal abuse and stop people from reaching out, as well as what is needed to ensure survivors gain the support they need. So when we talk about domestic violence, it's a reality that impacts communities across the UK and worldwide. The National Domestic Violence Centre in the UK highlights that 1 in 5 adults experience abuse during their lifetime. So that equates to 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 to 7 men. So whether we know it or not, someone we know may be a survivor of abuse. It touches our lives, whether it's directly or on the periphery. So when we talk about abuse, we often think about abuse in physical form. But Jacqui, from your experience on the front line, um, what forms can abuse take, and what do we need to be aware of?
There is a lot of psychological abuse, there's a lot of emotional abuse, there's a lot of coercively controlling abuse, which also ends up touching on things like economic abuse and quite a lot of other issues that are not visible to the untrained eye. It might just seem as if, oh, he doesn't let me do this. Oh, he wants to handle all the money. Oh, he wants to do this. But that is coercive control. And that is also a lot of economic abuse. Oh, he doesn't let me go to work. It's very, it's different. Let me just say that physical abuse and emotional and coercively controlling, there's two completely different polar opposites. And usually most survivors that I've encountered always feel that physical abuse, people can see it and they can believe me, but with the other, which is coercively controlling, psychological, verbal, and other things, they have to really take time to convince people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, simply because perpetrators are very good at appearing to be good people outside, and yet they do a lot of coercively controlling behavior behind closed doors.
Okay. And Priya, from the work you've done on the front lines, how is domestic abuse seen within the South Asian communities? What are some of the challenges you face?
I think some of the challenges are getting survivors to speak out because there's a lot of stigma attached to domestic abuse in the South Asian community. It's something that's often brushed under the carpet, which makes it really, really difficult for survivors to actually seek support. And that's what I found. And also for them to understand that it's not acceptable, it's not okay. We're no longer living in a world where we have to obey our husbands, for example, which is a very old school belief in the culture and the community for South Asians. So um, that can be a huge, huge challenge. Is a letting them use their voice finally, finding the strength to use their voice and speak out about what they've experienced, and also feeling confident enough to say those words that they don't have to do whatever their husband says, for example.
Okay. And someone you work tirelessly on the front lines, providing emotional and practical support to those who reach out. What do you find are some of the barriers to people voicing what's happening to them?
The first and important thing is like people don't even realize they are getting abused, right? Because as an Asian, especially Southern Asian people, the girls are taught that it's okay, it's normal. You are not a new person who is getting abused. So your husband is not letting you go. Oh, it's because husbands do that. They don't like you talking to someone. So it's like people don't want to get out. As Priya said, it is a stigma. You know, what will society say? Your parents will be said wrong things. Oh, now you are educated, so you are trying to teach us, kind of thing. So lots of barriers. The first barrier with them is the society and the way we are nurtured from, from the childhood. Mother-in-law are shaped. Even social media, if we say media, that TV, serials and all that stuff, they show very normally mother-in-law is doing, shouting at the daughter-in-law, or husband stopping to do things. It's normal, it's shown as normal, but it's not normal, because they go through a lot of emotional and mental and every kind of trauma with that. So that is the biggest barrier.
Okay. And someone you mentioned, for example, the role a mother-in-law can play, and the verbal abuse that you can experience. Often when people talk about domestic abuse or they try and picture it, they think of it as the spouse only being the abuser, or the partner. Could you delve into what you're seeing when it comes to wider family members and in-laws being part of this process of abuse or the
Okay,
abusers?
I will talk about the culture of India. I come from
Mm-hmm.
India. Mostly, uh, the woman is expected to stay in with the family in a joint family system. They are not allowed to stay out. The woman who says I want to stay away has given is given a bad name already. And they don't bring a woman or a bride at home. They bring non-paid house worker, I should say. The day the girl has arrived in the house, she is expected to cook, to clean the house, to serve everyone, get up before everyone gets up, make the tea in the morning, sleep after everybody has slept. I remember I've seen the society where husband and wife are not allowed to sit together in the morning because don't you get time at night enough? Huh? You shouldn't be having tea together. Even that is abuse, guys. How can you say that? A girl has come today and it is mostly arranged marriage. She needs to understand the whole family. Love marriage is not now a big no, but love marriages are there, but then there is honor based thing as well. Still there are places where they kill girl and boy if they are getting married. And the whole family, they had been living in plus one place forever. This is the girl who has come to your house. She has left her family, and the whole family ganging against her. Oh, she did this. She cooked. It's not good. My son is going slimmer because she is not good cooking good food. She don't know how to. I also took care of children. I had been a mother. So what? She is not a new person to do. So that verbal abuse from the whole family gives a bigger trauma.
And Priya, from your experience and the support you provide to survivors, how do cultural expectations of being a good woman and good wife shape people's responses to the abuse?
I think, yeah, just what Saman was saying. I think we can be conditioned from a young age, especially in the South Asian community, to have those beliefs that what we're there for is we're there to get married, then we take care of our children, we live with our in-laws, we then also take care of their house. We shouldn't really work. Our job is to manage the house, do the cooking, the cleaning, the ironing, the school runs, and all these things. And it's become a normalized thing.
Mm,
And these poor ladies believe that's normal, but it isn't. It isn't necessarily a marriage unless that's what you truly want. That is considered abuse, because something Saman just mentioned about those little comments about your cooking and your ability to do this and that, they're actually very hurtful, and it is abuse. That is emotional abuse from the family, which then you're starting to look at, okay, I've got more than one perpetrator now, not just my partner. I've got my family, the in-laws, family members. So at what point are we then moving into honor-based abuse there as well, with more than one
Hmm.
perpetrator involved in that? So definitely, I think that is where it's stemming from, that conditioned belief that that's what the woman's role is in the South Asian community in a marriage. That is all they need to do. We forget that they may have aspirations of their own to become educated and high-powered women in the corporate world, but that's not something that they're conditioned to believe that's possible
mm.
for them, or that they can achieve, which is sad.
And we've talked about how, and you've both all three highlighted the role of the family and community. How can fear of rejection from the family and community impact those trying to seek help?
Massively, I think, especially where perhaps they may be passionate about their religion, for example, the fear of being rejected from that community because you're now a separated woman, a single mother, or you're now divorced, and the kind of stigmas that are attached to those words, even though they're not a stigma at all. It's just trying to challenge those beliefs that, you've got the rest of your life to like make new memories, build a new family if you need to, and just challenging those beliefs is really, really difficult in the South Asian community.
And Jackie, each case that those you support, each individual case has its unique traits and features that mean you are required to provide nuanced support, and it differs. But what can be some of the challenges for someone who's immigrated or has not fixed visa here? What challenges can they face as someone trying to leave an abusive situation?
There's a lot of there's fear because 9 times out of 10 they don't know their rights. They're being told that if you leave, you're going to lose your visa because your visa is tied to me. So there's a lot of visa abuse going on there in that direction. They're also, you know, being told the wrong information. Some of them don't know that you can get information from organizations like ours to say, okay, this is my situation. I have no recourse to public funding. What is my way forward? So to those people would say, listen, the organizations like ours that are out there, approach them and get as much support and information as you can. Also with the visa abuse, you find that some end up not even leaving, and or when they leave they're in a really really bad state. And as Suman pointed out, that there's also a lot of abuse not just from the perpetrator but extended family. So there's that to consider, and we do find that by the time people, you know, turn up to us. It's been ongoing for a while, and it's got to the point where eventually somebody has either pointed them in our direction or professionals have referred them into our service, but it's not through any knowledge of their own. So when perpetrators are doing what they're doing, they know exactly what they're doing, so they close off any forms of them finding out as much as they can. So there is that huge factor. But yeah, then there's also the crippling thought that if there's the shame of going back, the shame of being deported, the shame of your marriage breaking down. So there's so many factors forcing people to stay within abusive situations and abusive marriages.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
someone working on the front lines, providing support to a diverse range of women, how can language barriers impact survivors' access to support from what you've seen? Is there enough awareness of the diverse languages, for example, within Indian, Pakistani, Bengali communities to make sure that organizations on the front lines can provide the support? Or do you still find that organizations like where you work are, there's a few that can provide that language support, but nationally, is it there?
There is a big barrier because most of the people, like the women especially, coming back from Asian country or even African country or anywhere, the thing is they think everybody here can speak English and I can't. That's the thing. So when they come to us couple of times, we have to tell it's okay if you can speak Punjabi or Hindi or Urdu or Bengali or whatever language. We have people from other languages too. Because the problem becomes when they are trying to tell us in English, they translate that thing and they cannot give the correct, you know, explanation. When you are speaking in your mother tongue, your explanation comes from heart, like, what you are actually going through. But when it is translated, the emotion is missed totally, right? So it is a problem. Many people don't even know that there are people, and they think of like, will I get a translator? Will I have to pay for them? How will I pay? There is no way I can get help. And then, as Jackie said, the abuser is always having his hold that, you know where are you going to go? You don't have anyone, you know and the other thing, what Priya also said, honor. Usually parents will always say, don't come back to us because we have so and so children to get married yet, especially girls, you know so if a girl child has come back, oh, this family's girls have come back, they are broken house, we don't want girls, our child, to get married in that kind of house. So there are lots of barriers in language, in all that stuff.
Mm. Okay. And Priya, as has been highlighted, for someone who's come to the UK to get married, language and a lack of understanding of the system and what support they have can be big barriers for them reaching out and getting what they need. But there's some people who might be thinking, hold on, what about those from second, third generation South Asian communities and other communities who have been born and raised in the UK? Why are there still challenges for them that mean they remain silent or are afraid to reach out?
I think because it's passed down from generations, even newer generations now, that stigma attached to kind of divorce and separation, single parent, um, how honor and how you're going against your religion and things like that by actually escaping an abusive relationship is still there. It's a conditioned belief even in newer families, so younger generations. Um, So I feel that there's similar barriers still for those who are not from an older generation, who are from newer. I believe it's the stigmas attached to all these things. I have worked with a lady recently who family member still brought up the fact that we don't really get divorced in their family. That was the response to domestic abuse, and it was a South Asian lady, quite a young lady, only in her late
Mm.
20s. So you see, even that person's parents still hold the belief that we don't really get divorced. That's the last thing we would want to do, and that's despite that their daughter is experiencing domestic abuse in their marriage. So there is still that belief there even now.
Hmm.
And what kind of support, Jackie, do single parents need most after leaving a abusive marriage or relationship? Do you feel?
Oh, I feel mostly practical,
Mm.
as in support with maybe navigating if they need any financial support, maybe with their benefits, maybe with their housing. Um, it also depends on whether they have no recourse to public funding. They would need support with that. They would also need support for the children themselves.
Mm.
Maybe referral into other services, for example, maybe with trauma therapy, things along those lines, and just support generally navigating everyday life. We've had a few survivors that we've supported, and when they were ready, supported them with going to work. So we've approached SmartWorks to get them clothes and Cowshed and other organizations along those lines to just support them on their way. And even when they get given emergency housing, we are making referrals into Cowshed to see if they can get any soft furnishings, any home furnishings. We're approaching other charities to see whether they can access white goods, um, sofas, things that they need to set up their
Mm-hmm.
own homes. So it is a lot, and I can understand why sometimes survivors are scared of navigating all of this on their own, and they probably make a decision that, okay, maybe let me just stay put where I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite daunting because it's a vast array of things that they need to try and start start afresh, basically. So
Hey,
Priya, Jackie's just talked about how her organization and she work with others to ensure that survivors gain all the support they need and there's no gaps, so they feel confident in navigating the next steps. And I know you and Jackie do a lot of collaborative work together to provide the most well-rounded support for survivors. Can you give an example of some of the things you find yourself facing and needing to do when you collaborate?
Yeah, I think that we collaborate quite well with each other, but also with like what Jackie said about collaborating with other organizations, really using their services. It's really good to like network with the local organizations because then you can really provide that tailored support. That's what I found. Like like what Jackie was saying, when they've moved into a new property, helping them acquire new furniture, even clothing from the local organisations. We're quite lucky what we have in our local area. So I think that collaboration is really, really vital to be able to support um, survivors in a person-centered way, which is exactly what you want, because you want to make sure that they know that they've got somebody to be alongside them. That's what we're all about. I think Project Salama are very similar to us in that they want to be holding hands with the survivor until they're up on their feet and feel empowered, and that's
Mm.
exactly what I'm about as well. So that collaboration is really, really critical to be able to do that, I think.
hmm.
And what types of support make the biggest difference in helping survivors, especially in single parent households, in rebuilding stability and confidence?
I think for me, I would say that having survivor-led support is like really, really empowering. Or that's what I found. All survivors are kind of inspired by the story I openly share with them in my programs. For example, I openly share my own journey of how I've gone and where I've got to now, and that really they find that very inspiring and empowering in itself. And it really gives them I always make sure I tell them how much they're helping me as well as I'm helping them. I make it so that it's not just all about me doing this. Actually, we're all helping each other heal. In my recovery programs, the group together, um, they really love it, to be honest, and the feedback is really, really good, and they all lean on each other and become friends with each other. It's just inspiring and amazing to see and watch, because you can literally see them growing, which is a beautiful thing.
And that idea of empowerment sounded brilliant, and I see how much it makes all of you smile, and the agreement with the heads nodding. Someone with the as well, you as well, the working on the front lines. What are the key things you see are needed to help women from the community support to gain confidence, to feel empowered?
The first thing is to listen to them. I think listening is more important. Sorry. Listening is very important, and accepting that they are not wrong. You know, they will come to you and say sometimes, do you think I am doing something wrong? Is it not, is it normal? And you have to accept that, yes, you know, you are right. Because so many times the abuser might have said, oh, this is just in your head, you know, you are mad, you are overthinking. So we have to make them realize that first thing, we are there listening to you, and you are not the only one. There are many people going through it. You are not the only one who is doing this. You know, we all have gone through. And as Priya said, she gives her journey, same with me. I say my journey so many times, you know, and we don't concentrate on our journey mostly. It will be, I think, all of us will do that. We'll say, that's okay, we are here. If you need anything, we are here, to build them, like, you know, that confidence that you can do it. We are there to help you, we are there to suggest you. And Jackie always goes an extra mile. You know, I've seen her going, and I've learned from her quite a lot. And I think a smile of ours, you know, that gives them that confidence as well. Because smile, I believe, goes a long way. It is contagious. You know, when they are sad, they want to cry, just let them cry, just let them take out what they have, and give them that time to, you know, take out. Because there is nobody else to listen to them. There has never been a person who they can say. Because even if they go to their mom or say something, mom will say, okay, don't worry, everything is normal, you know, this is normal. Moms usually say that, because mom has seen that, as Priya said before, you know, it has been coming from generations. And mothers don't want their house, their daughter's house to break, you know. So they'll say it's normal, fine, nothing happens, women do survive, women are strong, you don't need to do anything, you know. So it's charities like us, we give them that confidence that you are doing correct. If the parents support, well and good, because that is the best thing a girl can have. But if they don't support, make them realize that no problem, we are still there, we are not leaving you alone. That's it.
And that is brilliant. And how you talked about the fact that having those who have experienced this, who are survivors themselves on the front lines, providing the support is important. And it's expertise that others can reach out and gain knowledge from, and more culturally nuanced support. Because Priya, I know you also provide training to other organizations to facilitate culturally nuanced support. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, actually, I can do bespoke training packages. So it's all according to the needs of the organization or the person. Um, that can be around many different topics.
Hmm.
Sexual violence, for example, because I'm an ISVA and an IDVA. So sometimes I talk about sexual violence within the domestic abuse relationship because it's something that is not often spoken about, is how prevalent that is. So that's a popular thing. But other topics within abuse as well in general. But yeah, something that we do want to do eventually, hopefully collaboratively with Project Salama, is do some culturally appropriate training decks related to abuse so that we can
Hmm.
include the South Asia community, the African community, Caribbean community within that and make it relevant to them as well because we don't often see that in the
Hmm.
trainings that are available. So that is something that we want to create.
Brilliant. And Jackie, I know something your organization also highlights, and this is emphasized a lot on the website and your social media, is remembering abuse can occur post separation, something people may not be aware of or recognize themselves. So, for someone who's a single parent, a survivor, what can post separation abuse look like?
Oh my goodness, it does happen a lot, and in every community, every background, it is existing. I've seen it. I see it every day. It can look like trying to mess around with the contact arrangements where children are concerned. There are survivors that are having literally their characters assassinated, smear campaigns on social media, smear campaigns even on the professionals that support them so that they can be isolated by everyone. This is an active case that is ongoing, even to the point that the perpetrator has tried to come for me so that I stop supporting the survivor. There is a lot. There is going to professionals, making false allegations, stalking, harassment. That is all post separation abuse. Um, a person not understanding that we've broken up, you don't just turn up on my door. That is again post separation abuse. A lack of boundaries, or where the survivor is trying to put in boundaries and the perpetrator is completely barging past those boundaries. That is post separation abuse. Um, Even refusing to pay maintenance. That is post separation abuse because that maintenance is needed to maintain those kids. So when someone is like, I'm not doing it, or it's meant to go in on the first and then they decide to put it on the seventh,
Hmm.
that is separation abuse because the maintenance is there to ensure that where the children are living, everything is paid for, they have access to staff. So it's it's a long list, and I would be
Yeah.
here all day. Yeah, but it's a lot. A lot of things are done, and most survivors sometimes just keep quiet because it's not past the boiling point of being dangerous. But there is a lot of post separation abuse behaviors that we do see in the work that we do.
And it sounds very stressful and scary and intense. Are there steps that can be taken for survivors if they experience this? Yes.
We can support them, and some practical steps would actually be to get non-molestation orders, to sometimes go back to solicitors so that they can enforce the child contact arrangement and ensure that the perpetrator sticks to them. Because when someone has to go to work and you have to, and the perpetrator has the children, for example, let's say Tuesday and Wednesday, some perpetrators can choose, I'm not coming, and not answer the phone. So you can lose your job. And at the last minute, you're scrambling around trying to find support for your children. The most thing that you eventually, where you work, people will get fed up that she's not turning up to work. She only has Tuesdays and Wednesdays to work, but she's not coming. So perpetrators, I always tell people, they know 1,000,000% what they are doing. Most of what they're doing, they're set out, they're thinking about it. Where, for example, a survivor might want to move forward into another relationship, perpetrators tend to ramp up then as well to ensure that that doesn't happen. And eventually the new partner will just get fed up and walk away. without understanding that the other person is being put through a post-separation abuse. It's basically coercive control, but the person is from their own house. They're continuing and they're putting pressure. And I always feel like it's one of the most dangerous things because most people have been injured, murdered. It's usually post-separation abuse.
And
I would like to add there that
mhm,
recently in Reading there was a murder of a woman, which was due to post separation abuse.
Yes, I was in that traffic the day that happened. I remember.
and Priya,
And I just wanted to add to that as
mhm,
well that so one thing that we need to highlight is it's actually romanticized pro-separation abuse, and that can make everybody minimize it. You see in movies when the girl breaks up with the guy, but he won't leave her alone. That's part of a romantic storyline, but actually, if you think about it, that's how it starts and how the post-separation kind of escalates, and we kind of
mhm,
romanticize that in movies. That's something that makes me quite cross sometimes.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I think there was a song that I was listening to the other time. With my colleague, we were in her car, and because of what we do, we suddenly thought, oh my god, these lyrics, like, I'm gonna keep
Mhm.
coming even if you say no. I mean, and we're like bopping around thinking it's not romantic, it is toxic and scary.
Yeah.
And we're glamorizing
mhm,
post-separation abuse every time, every day when we're watching movies. We need to understand and teach our children and everybody that's watching these shows that no means no.
mhm,
And we should get our own therapy to get over a breakup and keep it moving rather than to think that if I go back 9 times a day, they will take me back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like Priya said, it is horrendously romanticized.
mhm,
It's not romantic. The person that's on the receiving end is not sleeping. They're absolutely stressed, mental health issues, you name it, it's going on.
mhm.
So, nothing romantic about post separation abuse at all.
And talking about post-separation abuse, Priya, do you think legislatively or the police, there's enough awareness around this to address it?
No, I don't. I don't think there's enough. I think it's really, really important to keep highlighting it and keep
Mhm,
explaining. Also, to survivors, they're not aware that that's what they're experiencing. I went through horrific post-separation abuse. Actually, I was stalked for around 9 years after my abusive relationship, but even I didn't see it that way until many years later when I started educating myself and doing my studies in this sector. Did I realize that that had a name and that's what it was. So I don't think there's anywhere near enough awareness across
mhm,
services, across the public, general public. Like I said, people think that's romantic. You know, I used to think, oh, look how obsessed he is with me. He's like keeps on, but actually it was moved into stalking. So you know that's it's very dangerous actually, where it can
mhm,
lead in post separation abuse. Like Jacqui said, you know that's where a lot of women's murders are actually happening across the UK. So it's really critical that we do raise awareness to it.
mhm. And talking about abuse post separation and before, Jacqui, you mentioned things like non molestation orders and going back to solicitors and things. And there may be some people listening right now going, I know someone who would need this, but they would panic about applying for a non molestation order. They can't afford a solicitor. What would you say to them? Are there avenues they can take? What help can they gain?
Right. If it depends on the kind of income that they're on. If
Mm-hmm.
they're on universal credits, they'll be entitled to legal aid. We'd be able to support them with that. We'd be able to support them with a legal aid letter to show that we're supporting them, so that also be able to make a referral to NCDV, because we do have apps on our phones where we can just make an immediate referral and they would take it up from there. As long as there's proof that there's been stalking, there's been harassment,
Mm-hmm.
NCDV will push it through, it'll go to court, they won't have to pay, it'll be done under legal aid, and the normalization order will be granted.
Okay.
So they don't have to worry, they can just contact us and we'd support in that respect.
Well, okay, so someone who's on a low income or universal credit has that support. But what about for someone who does not?
we would still make a referral to
Mm-hmm.
NCDV, and NCDV would take it from there. Usually, when they're supporting people with non molestation orders, there hasn't really been that much of a fallback of, oh, you need to pay for it,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm aware. I think it may you may be impacted. Let's say, for example, if you own a property,
Mm-hmm.
there might be questions. Obviously, legal aid, NCDV, they have to do their due
Mm-hmm.
diligence on that. So that is usually within their hands. But most of our cases, 9 out of 10, I would say, have gone through without any major issues.
Okay, that's pretty good to know. And someone from the work you have done supporting survivors, especially those who are raising children, what support do they need from communities, families?
Um, you know, I what I feel that the kids go, they suffer the most, right? And when a woman is a single parent, I think the community itself should be saying, "Don't worry, we are there to support you," rather than making um, fun of them, or saying, "Oh, teach your children at least not to make fun, like saying, oh, you don't have a father." you know I have heard so many women talking about it. My child gets angry when the name dad comes, kind of thing. So I think the communities, they need to understand, the woman didn't take this decision for her leisure. She has undergone, that is the last thing she could do, and for the benefit of their child, for their own life, they need to do something, and that's why they have taken this decision. And there are loads of communities where um, they take care of the children. And I think the children need to be seen at what emotional trauma they have gone through. Might be they have seen their mothers beaten, you know might be they have seen, and that remains in that brain, and it goes for a long time, because they can't do anything to help up their mother. So, that thing, the communities should, I will say, be calm, be little bit thoughtful about them, to support
Okay.
them.
And from what you've all said, there's a need to reframe ideas of shame, honor when it comes to issues around abuse and women leaving relationships and marriages because of toxicity and danger, both for their well-being and their children if they have children. But also, Priya, your organizations do terrific work. You are often under resourced, stretched thin, but still passionate about what all of you do. But what needs to be done structurally when it comes to government policy, law? Now, this is a big question, and I know there's a lot to do, but from all three of you have vital experience, lived experience, but expertise working on the front line. What needs to be done structurally? What do the government, law enforcement need to
The
be aware of?
the government really needs to work on policies that can be followed to allow for greater conviction rates, because that's what the sad reality is. We have such low conviction rates for these crimes that um, sometimes survivors just think, is there any point to continue with this case? Is there any point reporting it to police when I know nothing's going to happen? Um, but one thing we have to remember is the police are actually following the guidance to investigate these crimes that is laid out by the government. So it just keeps going up and up and up. Something needs to change at the top to be able to filter down. We need much, much, much more funding to be able to tackle domestic abuse, sexual violence, resources, all these things. So it's just really hard. And all we can do, like in our roles, is do the best we can to support the survivor with whatever they need, whatever their needs are, in a person-centered way, whether that's just someone to talk to, whether that's someone to sit with them when they're making their reports, whether that's someone helping them get furniture for their new house where they're now safe, getting into a refuge. That's all we can do at our level. Something really, really high up needs to change for real change to happen, which is the saddest part.
And Jacqui, what do you feel needs to be done as well?
I agree 100% with Priya, and I feel that there needs to be an understanding that domestic abuse doesn't just happen, sexual abuse doesn't just happen and go away. There's lasting trauma. Most people, I always tell professionals within the mental health arena that if you go deeper, you will find that the largest percentage of people that have been through trauma that is either sexual or domestic abuse are the people that you have on the wards, or that the people that you're looking after every day. You don't just get over it. Even if you're housed, even if you get a job or things like that, there will still be things that will trigger you. There will still be things that impact you. Trauma remains. So again, the correct funding has to be put in place so that we can adequately and appropriately support people, also based on, and be culturally sensitive at the same time, and make sure that the language barrier is not an issue. And that means that we have to try and recruit people from all backgrounds so that when they're there, survivors of somebody that they can relate to. It is so big. There's so much that needs to be done.
Yeah.
We're offering therapeutic arts and crafts and all these things. That is all funding for the spaces. That is all funding, working together with other organizations. Even sometimes they can't take on survivors due to funding. We've even got Brave, which was the one and only trauma therapy that was specifically targeted for women and men that have gone through trauma, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, and that was linked with the NHS and it got scrapped due to funding. So imagine what message we're sending, that survivors of abuse, they don't matter. So I wish the government would, some of the people that write the policies and work on funding would visit to see some of the work that we're doing, some of the people that we're supporting, and what is needed more, what is needed further. It's a lot. People forget that the mind is completely affected by everything that's happened. So that is my 2 cents to that one.
All your words highlight how much needs to be done, but also the intensity of what's involved in providing support. And so, what the survivors have to deal with, it's not short term, it's long term.
It's
Very
long
long.
term, yeah. And we've got all these programs that we're running, but to facilitate them, we need the funding to be able to do that. Because sometimes having these programs does help survivors a lot. It goes such a long way to ushering them into recovery, into thriving, because most are still in survival mode. And also, although we do run all these webinars and training courses for organizations for the NHS, I think it needs to be engaged at a deeper level so that we can, offer more, and it can be embedded within the NHS. Because there's people that have been sectioned, when they've said, I've been abused, because sometimes the abuser is too good to be true. So professionals will just believe the abuser and start querying the mental well-being of the survivor. There's so much that we see, and I wish more money could be channeled towards training, and training for professionals, and training as well, programs for survivors themselves. And I know that there's some perpetrator programs that are ongoing as well, but I always feel like sometimes these perpetrator programs are actually there to educate perpetrators on how to slip under the radar. But that's just me. That's just my own mindset. So
It is true.
So it So, but I'm not. I know a little bit about perpetrator programs, but for those who are listening who have not heard of it, could one of you explain what it involves often?
I can. I've done the perpetrator program, facilitator training with Respect. Um, I actually wanted to do it for a different reason. I wanted to see what's taught in there and what it's about, really, more than anything, just to get that perspective. So it's about challenging their beliefs from within. A lot of it stems down to where their beliefs come from that allows them to perpetrate this type of behavior, and challenging that, working with them to try and change their mindset and change those behaviors going forward. But I don't know how. I'm a bit skeptical as well about how they work in the long term. I know that what we've seen in reporting metrics is that during the time they're on their program and they're remaining in a relationship, their violence rates and stuff has gone down. But whether that continues for the long term, I don't
Mm.
know, and I'm not sure, and I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It's definitely something that needs to be explored more. And from what
Yeah.
you've all shared, it definitely seems that more nuanced awareness of the types of abuse during a relationship, but also after, needs to be discussed and engaged with across sectors.
Yeah, and I feel like I think for perpetrators, the pressure should be on them more than it should be on survivors. We should focus on supporting survivors into navigating back into life with their children, getting healthy, getting starting to thrive. And I think all the things that we place the burden on survivors, we should place it on perpetrators too. For example, with the parenting courses, with navigating healthy relationships, all of this, it should equally be placed on perpetrators. The amount of programs that survivors are navigating, let's try and put all that on perpetrators. And I think we should flip the script as well. I know that sometimes for safety we have to move the survivors out, but I always feel like it's the survivor that has to really revamp their lives, and perpetrators just go and slide straight back in. So it feels sometimes like survivors are being punished and re-traumatized over and over again. And I just always think, what if we put all this pressure on perpetrators? What would happen? Would we see a change? And I feel like maybe we would, because maybe sometimes they're just doing that one program, but the amount of programs that survivors have to do or access sometimes is more than what a perpetrator is accessing. And most of them are just coming up for a tick box, aren't they? Maybe they're on probation and things like, and they've been court ordered to attend.
Attend that.
Yeah. Do you think that they are coming in voluntarily, Priya?
I think there's the option, isn't there? There is the option that male perpetrators can reach out and say that they want to change their behavior and reach out for
Mm-hmm.
that help. But the majority, I believe, are being referred in as part of their kind of
Yeah,
tick box exercises through social services or probation, things like that. Not entirely sure on the actual data. Something I have to look at, really. I'm not sure,
yeah.
but I think
Because
it's
I think,
definitely a bit of both. Yeah.
yeah, and some of them will return, but this victim will be a different name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's quite concerning. It's just,
yeah,
something that we need to factor, that maybe we should give survivors a soft landing and put a lot more pressure on the perpetrators.
Yeah.
And talking about, Jackie, how you talked about the pressure survivors are under, all they have to deal with. All they have to do, sometimes moving to another city, a new home, um, losing relationships, being forced to lose relationships for safety, theirs and their children's potentially. Someone, from your experience on the front lines, what can the impact be of, say, a single mother who's just escaped, survived an abusive relationship, then having to move to another city or move home?
I think she goes through the, I don't want to say this word, but it is hell, you know, because she is like, uh, she has to start anew. She might have seen so many dreams with that partner, right? Having children, having a good life. But then all of a sudden, she's going through this. One, because the abuser is going to come behind her. So they keep looking for, so she is in fear. He can see me there. Is there someone? Is that person looking at me? So that fear is always with her. Secondly, uh, should I work now? Because mentally, emotionally, she's actually not ready for anything. And she's expected to work. You know, as Jackie said, if they are on universal credit, if they are, what if they are not? They are the sole person to, you know, to start work and take care of the children. You never know, father is going to pay or not pay. You don't know. So that is the problem. And this woman is trying to fight not only with the abuser but also the society at the same time. All because not all work people or the managers will understand what she's going through. And that's why I think what Jackie was talking about, more training. It's not only the police, the NHS, it's also the work, how you can support these people. You know, we need to look into, can she work from home? Can she come after dropping her child and go home before picking up her child? She has to look into it. So we need to support her more and more because she is starting new. Okay, there are charities which can give her soft furnishing, there are charities which can give some food, but still she has to cook, she has to take care of her children. And can she have some emotional support of sitting and crying, you know, thinking about? So she has a lot of pressure on her. And the fear, even when they shift to another city, she don't know anyone, she has to make new friends. Can she trust anyone? Because her trust factor is already broken, the trust is already broken. So all these things, and getting a new job, it's not easy again. So all these things do matter in this case.
And Priya, each case and the realities that a woman may face living in an abusive relationship varies. But so we've talked about someone who may be forced to leave their home and go to another city, but even someone who's able to stay in their home, and maybe through a non-molestation order, an occupation order, um, but they're still they've lost a relationship. They're having to deal with the consequences of the abuse they've dealt with and potentially the repercussions of getting a divorce and what family and community think. Do you think there's enough awareness, broadly speaking, of the general challenges they may face, even if everything looks like it might be better from the outside because they've separated or divorced?
No, I don't think there's enough awareness because a lot of survivor services have a threshold of where this survivor is getting support and where that support kind of ends. And when it ends, it's because the case has ended or like the criminal side of things has ended. However, we know that the trauma hasn't ended. That survivor has got a lifelong life to live with that trauma, learning to live with
Mm,
it. And, there's so many other things that are happening afterwards, such as the financial side of things. Perhaps now she may be in our home, but there's just one person trying to run all these bills, the mortgage or the rent, whatever it may be. has she even been working while she's been in this relationship? A lot of abusers stop you from working, so actually now she might be trying to get a job, but she's actually coming out of a abusive relationship as well, where she's been living in survival mode. Now she's out of that. Actually, she's going to start processing those memories, and everything actually starts to come out. And that's the time where you get quite traumatized as well. So there's going to be that to deal with. The children, if there's children involved, there's going to be adaptation. They're having to adapt to a whole new life, and also they may have been through abuse as well. Well, they have, because
Mm-hmm.
they've been indirectly abused, whether
Hmm.
directly or it doesn't matter. So they're going to be coping and processing things as well. And then there's that trauma to manage. So it just doesn't end. So that's why it's so important to be, threshold free. My services, my
Mm-hmm.
organisation, they're all threshold free. So is Project Salama, because we understand as survivors that it doesn't end there just because the case may have ended. And that's another barrier we have about the financial funding we have in domestic abuse, sexual violence, things like that. It doesn't account for the ongoing impacts that may be occurring, which is why it's so important to have these other services which are open-ended, and we're there for as long as they need us, or when
Mm-hmm.
they feel ready to leave us, they can. We don't drop them because the funding doesn't stretch to the next stage. So it doesn't end with that. They may remain in their home, but there's so much more to deal with after that point.
The ripple effects continue and continue, especially
Yeah,
with the cost of living crisis now and
yeah.
all else. The realities can be painful, and we have focused on women from South Asian communities and more broadly as survivors, but the percentage may be smaller. But men can also, as we know, be survivors and victims of domestic abuse. Within the work you do you find that men do reach out, or is the hesitancy still vast? Is the silence still numbing?
Men do reach out, and there's a few that we've supported from the inception of Project Salama, and but I feel like they're very hesitant too. And I think because there's a general assumption that domestic abuse and abuse only happens to women, which really isn't correct. I remember supporting a young male who was going through everything that you've described. We had to support him to get a normalization order. We had to support him to get the court to get solicitors to help him enforce the child arrangements order, because what was happening was also post separation abuse for him. A pregnancy had occurred, realized we cannot conduct a relationship, and the woman was, his ex partner was not having it. So she was harassing, stalking, calling him,
Mm-hmm.
calling women she was dating. She was telling him, you can't see the child. He'd turn up to pick his child up. She wouldn't come out. It was horrendous post separation abuse. But I feel, again, because we all expect this from men.
Mm-hmm.
For his part, he said to me, I have been to services, but they just don't get it. They did not understand that this was prolific post separation abuse, and it was being inflicted on him by his ex partner, and she was using their child to do that. And it was because she wasn't happy about the breakup, and she wasn't happy that he then moved on with another partner. So I've I've seen quite a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like with men as well, sometimes it might also be male on male, but when it's female on male,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually a lot of coercive control in there and verbal abuse, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is this image of what abuse looks like and who the perpetrator is and who the victim
Yes.
and survivor is.
Yeah.
And that can
Hmm.
cause barriers as well, especially from Jackie, what you've just shared. Priya, within, for example, the South Asian community and communities more broadly, we've talked about the stigmatization, the shame of women leaving relationships. Is Waba is from what you've seen and the support you provide and sharing knowledge with other organizations who may have supported male survivors, how can shame and assumptions of masculinity prevent them reaching out?
Yes, absolutely. I have seen that masculinity is a massive thing, especially where the perpetrator might be female. That is really, really challenging for a male survivor, because speaking out about that, you can become a joke to your friends, for example, people that you want to confide in and you think will be your biggest support, actually end up furthering that abuse by minimizing what you've experienced. So I find for men that's a big thing, is the masculinity side of things, where the abuser is a female. However, I've also had male survivors being abused by other males. And something I've experienced with a South Asian survivor, a male one, was actually the stigma attached to him being gay as well from the
Hmm.
family. So that was another factor to consider. Actually, speaking out that he was abused, being abused, meant that he would have to disclose his sexuality to people when he wasn't ready, when the family wouldn't accept that because of his background and the expectations that man marries women in that community and that culture. So that was a massive barrier as well for accessing support, is having to come out before being ready to. I mean,
Uh, Something many people may not be aware of or think about, because the reality is, if there's assumptions about sexuality and who is the victim, who's the perpetrator, and then the pressure of having to reveal something that you're not necessarily ready for in order to get the support. But also, from all the work you do you find that you have survivors or those who are facing abuse reaching out to you, or other organizations referring to you, or is there a streamlined process generally where you do have the police who make the referrals, so the support is consistent and you get there as early as possible?
no, I don't believe I've seen consistency yet. I believe it comes from all angles for me anyway. I find a lot of them have actually reached out personally on their own. Rather than being referred. I've had referrals from other charities, but not so much from police. But I'm assuming that's because the police maybe are signposting, and then they are getting in
Hmm.
contact themselves as like a self-referral rather than via police. Not had many either from GPs and things like that. A lot of it has been self-referrals and them actively reaching out, which is such a brave step in itself for a survivor to do, which it's sad, because it must have taken a lot for them to get to that point where they had to reach out. And just imagine how many survivors are not reaching out yet or not quite ready. That's what's quite sad, because you have to be at a certain point to actually find that courage to reach out
Hmm.
by yourself. Well, something to think about.
Yes. And someone, has your experience with those you provide support to been similar to Priya's or different?
No, it's same. We do get referrals from other charities, but I, s- me personally, I haven't got any from the police, and Jackie might have got couple.
Yeah, we do have referrals that come in from the
That's
police.
like I didn't.
I think there's one that you supported that came directly through from the police.
Oh yeah, yeah, we
Yes,
do.
yeah, this, yeah.
Maybe it's like more because we speak to police as well
Mm-hmm.
directly, and Jackie has got good relationship in that police station and stuff. So sometimes, because even they need training, they need to know there are
Mm-hmm.
charities. I have heard people saying, oh, you are lying, you know, because the abuser have come up and said, oh, her mental state is not good,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So yeah, we do, not from GPs, I think, but more
Oh no, we get from GPs
as
as well.
well. See,
Yeah,
see,
and social prescribers,
I am,
social
yeah,
services, other
Mm-hmm.
organizations. So we get quite a flood of referrals coming through from quite a lot
quite a
of
lot of,
places.
yeah.
And yeah, it's for example, with West Berkshire Police, they call us
Directly.
directly or email us directly to say there's this person. that's gone through this, and if they might be going through post-separation abuse, so they'll bring them to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of also work alongside with Berkshire Women's Aid because we're
Yeah.
long-term support. We don't ever close.
Mm-hmm.
So BWA will always know that, okay, if we have supported the person and they still need emotional support, they can go, we can refer them into Project Salama. So there's a lot of referrals that come in. And in Wokingham, we also get referrals through from
Mm-hmm.
Cranston,
Yeah.
and they come through to us. And if it's Reading, it's BWA. West Berkshire is
We
BWA.
get from Slough.
And yeah, and Slough as well.
Slough also.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
We get
Okay,
more
Mm.
throughout. It's not like
yeah.
only one. We do
Mm-hmm.
get quite a lot. And I know Jacqui has worked hard for that.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
and I send them on to Suman and other support workers, and they deal with
Mm-hmm.
them very well. So yeah,
It's
they
a
support them very, very well. So we're quite happy.
well-rounded oil team, but it does sound like
Yeah.
from what Priya, Jacqui, someone said the experiences can be drastically different depending on location and awareness of law enforcement of your organizations and vice versa and the systems in place. Um, it's a complex issue, and it definitely seems like from what you all said, long-term support is vital. It's just a matter
Mm.
of long-term funding, both structurally from the government, but also them having procedures in place and frameworks themselves, because you are all doing a phenomenal job, but it cannot just be left at the organization trying to do everything on their own. And but thank you for sharing your experiences and expertise and what you have seen on the front line. It's been powerful and insightful, and I'm sure it's raised many questions. I know it has for me, so I'm sure it has for those who have been listening. And hopefully, it sparked an understanding of some of the complexities that can manifest, the stigma and the impact it can have, and encourages someone who needs your help to reach out, or anyone who's listening who you think might require support. Organizations and people are here to help and determined to help, which I can see in Jacqui, Suman, and Priya's faces. They're ready, determined, and I'm sure will continue to do amazing work. Thank you very much for taking time out to speak to us at Asian
Thank you.
Fingerprints Network.